Welcome to the Sacred Feminine Connection podcast, founded by me, Anne Reynolds, with a twofold mission, which is to reweave the red thread of sisterhood among women around the world and restore the sacred connection between the feminine and masculine that thrived in ancient times but was lost and forgotten. At this time, this podcast airs every second Monday of the month on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. Today's episode is entitled Listening to a Living World, the Intelligence of Nature and Our Deep Belonging. I'm so honored to introduce today's speaker, none other than Anna Begas. Anna is a guide in plant spirit herbalism, embodiment therapist, and somatic sexology coach whose work supports people in freeing themselves from internalized oppression and living from their own truth, vitality, and desire. She works at the intersection of nature, body, soul, and sexuality, offering trauma-informed pathways and healing, connection, and liberation. Anna works with individuals, couples, and groups online and in person through sessions, courses, retreats, and online community. Her approach blends deep presence with practical magic, helping people remember their belonging in a living world. Welcome, Anna. I am so honored to have you here today. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted to share with all the podcast listeners that Anna is one of the most influential people in my life, whom I deeply honor and respect. She brings such beautiful wisdom that I'm going to share today. And so I was really, really excited to have her accept my invitation. And so I'm really, really excited for how this conversation is going to pan out. And I can't wait to have her share with us the wisdom that comes from within her that is informed by everything that I just said today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, how did the spirit of the plants call out to you for the first time in your life?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't actually, when I think back, it's in childhood. When I think back, it's not any like dramatic instance. More like the way a child moves in the world, more connected. I grew up in villages and towns in the Netherlands, so very populated country. There is no really wild nature around, but of course nature is everywhere. So my mother liked to garden. I remember doing things like making perfumes from flowers from the garden and things like that that would get really smelly after a day. And just, it was all just play, walks in the forest, sometimes on Sunday and things like that, and just feeling good in nature generally. But a more pronounced memory, I guess, is in my village neighborhood. We used to play hide and seek. I probably was around 6, 7. And I found this great hiding spot, which was in in a pine tree. It was quite hard to get into because of all the branches. And first of all, it was a really good hiding spot and no one would find me. So I would spend quite some time there. And I realized it made me feel really calm. And it was kind of cool and dark and nurturing, the energy, it made me feel really safe and calm and connected. So it started to become my secret place for when I was feeling sad or when I was having any kind of other emotion. I would start hiding in that tree and just hanging out in that tree. And, without making it into anything special, it was just my little hiding place. But thinking back as an adult, I realized that was already plant communication or tree communication taking place. That, many of us will have that kind of memories. So I think that's where it started, just being a child and just moving around my neighborhood naturally.
That's so beautiful. So since when you were a young girl, you were already outside a lot. So you already had that that was something that you
Yes, I
find?
mean, outside, just like children playing outside, we didn't have phones and computers so much, so that was helpful. So we just played outside every afternoon. But yeah, no, I didn't grow up in a jungle or, in a big forest or in the mountains. I really lived in very populated areas. But of course, their nature is everywhere. So there was that connection always present. And I think um, that is the case for most people, but we just don't realize often.
Mhm. Beautiful. And so, what is the experience with the spirit of the plants that made the most impact in your life and motivated you towards the work you do with people today?
Um, Again, I think there are many experiences that add to each other. And for the big first part of my life, we're not conscious in a way that, I wasn't conscious like, oh, this is plant spirit communication, for example. But a big turnaround was when I started to study at the Scottish School of Herbal Medicine, where we learned Goethean Science. So that is a way of studying each plant by meeting it as a being. And we had to meet each plant before we would actually study it scientifically or from the books, so to say. So that was the first time I consciously understood what I intuitively already knew, which is that each plant is a being or has an energy or has a character, and that it is possible to have a two-way communication that goes from me out to the plant, but also from the plant back to me. And so I think that was the biggest turnaround of being conscious of that. And then, yeah, the biggest impact that motivated me to really bring this work out more into the world, so to say, was much later, around COVID times, and it wasn't one plant in particular. It was quite a big period of time where I was just really called to listen to the plants, but also to rocks, for example, and the mountain where I lived, and the river that I lived next to, and the elements. And it was a time when I was going through shock myself and grief and loneliness, along with a lot of stress, financial and emotionally. I had lost all my income with COVID, and I had just become a single mom of two children. So there was a lot going on for me. And this is when everything in nature was starting to speak to me so loudly. And at the same time, I really started to listen very deeply because I was really needing that. I was really needing, support basically. And it was the rocks in particularly and the mountain that showed me the way forward through teaching me a felt sense of belonging, of me being one of them or one of the bigger ecosystem. And energetically, that was a missing piece for me. And then there were specific plants that brought me specific medicine, especially borage, rosemary, and a tobacco plant from Colombia that I received a young plant and I started to grow them. So they all had different jobs. So borage really helped me contact the grief in my heart and move with that and uplift myself. Rosemary helped me energetically really to protect myself and shift my focus to my own life and where I was going. And then tobacco really became the strongest ally, and a very straight teacher, like push in the back kind of. And I understood from my relationship with tobacco that the plants are speaking and they need people to listen. And because I was listening, one of the people who's listening, they needed me to help other people to learn to listen too. And the plants want to co-create with us. So they needed me to kind of be one of the bridges between the species. And tobacco showed me not to run away from this soul work, and amongst other things, being very stern Like I suffered a lot with fear of speaking about this online, and I had imposter syndrome, and basically my fears were keeping me quite blocked. And basically, tobacco showed me that those fears were not so important. And what was much more important was actually getting people to listen to the plants. The that's where my focus needed to be, rather than on my own fears. My focus needed to be on where I can make an impact, where I can help, and where I can help the plants helping others. So I think that is where I really started to share my plant spirit work with a wider audience.
I'm hearing that there are several plants together that collaborated in bringing about this impact, and also not only that, but the stones and the mountain as well. Could you tell us a little bit more about where is this location? Because you did mention that you come from the Netherlands, but
Right.
then where was the location of the mountain and the rocks? Or were you still in that place, or are you
Well,
still or are you in a different location?
yes, thanks for asking. I actually left the Netherlands when I was 18. So I moved a lot around the world, and um, yeah, just to add quickly to that, that's also where I received a lot of wisdom from different cultures and people who are living closer to the earth than what I had grown up with in the Netherlands. I now live in Spain since 15 years, so this period of time was happening here in the south of Spain, in Andalucia, where I live.
Okay. And could you tell us a little bit more about the boret plant? Is that right?
Borage?
Bor how?
Yeah, borage it's called. So it grows here in Europe. Borago officinalis is like the Latin name. It's actually in herbal medicine. It's very good. It's used for many different things. Very good for the lungs, amongst other things. It comes up now in well, here in the south of Spain, early spring, and it has beautiful blue flowers. Some are also some sorts also have the white flower, but the flower hangs down rather than looking up, and it has a core that is black stamens, and then has this kind of big, broad leaves that are slightly prickly, and it's used for many different things, including the lungs. It's quite known for, in folk history here, it's people say borage for courage. It's very known for when you're struggling with depression or grief, or needing uplifting, basically. And I remember one day I sat with this plant, quite, not really having any expectation, just feeling to be with the plant and sitting with it. And in that, really connecting to the plant as a teacher, I suddenly, my body just caved in and like really hanging down, basically. And I really got to feel the grief I was carrying in my heart that I was aware of, but not on a day to day, not on that level, basically. I was putting it aside to be able to do my day to day, living and work and mothering. And the plant helped me to really feel the pain that was there. And I stayed with that for a while. Just that's how it works for me, just instructed by the plant and feeling it in my body. And then at some point, my body just naturally started to curl up, and my body took on a more straight position, but I also felt just really blueness, blue sky, openness, new potential, new hope. And that was borage, the plant, showing me its medicine. It was showing me, I can work, this is what you're carrying, this grief in your heart. I can work with it, and I can show you the movement up again. And that's what it did. So that's, for everybody, this works different. Not everybody will have a physical movement, or some people have feelings, intuitions, or emotions or visions. It really depends how you perceive, and we all have different qualities and different talents in how we perceive. Mine is very physical often, but that was the plant telling me, here's your wound and here is my medicine.
That's so beautiful. And I wanted to ask how did the plants these plants call out to you? Because they're very specific, and you were explaining how
Yeah,
you had these different emotions that were that you were carrying, and then these plants. I mean, it's more than one. It's borage and rosemary and tobacco. And did they call out to you? How did you connect with these particular plants? How was it that you felt the pull or
mm,
the call to work with them, with these
yeah.
particular plants? Because there's so many different plants, and well, before I say anything else, I will ask you that first.
Yeah, that's a great question. I can tell you how it was for me in these relationships with these plants, and also that it can be so many different ways for so many different people. Generally, um, my attention just goes there. So where I live now is really a quite natural place. We have so many plants around, including borage, including rosemary, for example. Um, And if I go for walks in that time, I was just extremely, what to say, like, just like with humans, you can really feel a pull to somebody, like falling in love, or suddenly you find that person really interesting. So I just thought rosemary was so beautiful. I just felt the smell and the flowers and the I was just attracted to it. So that's what pulled me there. And with borage, pretty much the same. It comes up early spring and then it's still blossoming the whole time, and it's like, wow, this is so beautiful. And it's just that pull, like, it's just you're just interested in it. But for some people, or for me other times, it can come through a dream as well, or suddenly you keep getting this plant into your consciousness, like a friend talks about it, then you read about it, then you see something online, like they just become present. And if you follow that with curiosity, it's a calling. And the tobacco was literally um, given to me. I worked with it in a weekend in Portugal with herbalists, and the little plant was given to me, and I was just from the first time I worked with it. I was just so interested in it as well. I became really enthusiastic about growing it, and then that particular place where I lived then had a kind of really particular microclimate, also caused by that I was cleaning my terrace with water a lot, and that water would seep away into the earth, and then seeds had fallen there from my little tobacco plant. So enormous tobacco plants grew there. And they were a bit like in front, next to my gate, they were a bit like a guardian. I don't know, they were just so majestic and enormous, and yeah, they were like really kind of impressive and regal almost. So I was just in awe of them. Basically, that was the calling for me.
And since you already told us about the calling for borage and tobacco, could you tell us about the calling for rosemary?
Yeah, and there were many rosemaries growing in a dry riverbed. That well, the river would be dry in summer there where I lived, and they were quite big because they're in the full sun. That's what they love, for full exposure. And they were just beautiful. And I would sometimes go for walks and sit with them. And rosemary gave me a real feeling of, it's almost, to me, feels almost like an abuela, like a grandmother. And it feels kind of like in your energy field, in my energy field, like let's say, it feels very full, it feels very protected, almost like I have a bit of a purple edge to my field, which helped me to feel protected. And then also it taught me about setting boundaries, putting the focus on my own life rather than on other people, um, and giving me a sense of psychic protection and giving me a sense of safety, calmness, groundedness, and really, yeah, a beautiful kind of pull into the heart. So whenever I would sit with rosemary, I would, meet the rosemary plant and just introduce myself like, hey, this is who I am and this is how I feel, and then receive her answer. And it would make me feel so grounded and so full and so protected that I just kept going there because that was one of the medicines I was really needing in that time.
This is so beautiful how all the different plants they have a different medicine. They have a different wisdom to impart to us when we listen closely, and how there's so much involved. It's not only, well, these plants are used for different purposes. Like the thing that's coming to mind for me, for example, is, we use rosemary in cooking, and it's like for its taste, and it can also be a tea. And then with tobacco, I mean, it's really popular with all the smokers, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
but then there's more, there's so much more to it than just being used for that purpose. So it just really opens up the whole, like the whole magic that is present within the plants, if we know how to listen, or if we come across a teacher like you who can help us to discover that we can listen and to the plants, and they're all around. Aside from that, because you were mentioning about the plants, but not only that, I heard you mention the rocks and the mountain. And because you mentioned about the elements, could you tell us a little bit more about how the mountain and the especially the rocks, because I know that you specifically mentioned it in that way, have had also had an influence on you in conjunction with the plants?
Great questions. I just want to add about the tobacco plant and its kind of popular use of smoking. It and give thanks to where I got my tobacco knowledge from. Actually, quite a few different people, all coming from South America, where they grow the plant and where it's local, Ecuador, Colombia. Um, I think if you really listen to the tobacco plant in the way of sitting with it, you will learn how not to use it, as well as it is a toxic plant. And the way we use it in the West, or the way that actually, the colonizers, white people, stole the tobacco plant without having that connection to it that the local or the indigenous people had. And so they started to use it without listening, basically, and started to use it in ways that are really harmful for human beings and causing disease and problems. That is obviously not the way that tobacco would want to work with us, but it is what happens when we don't listen. And yeah, I think it's important to understand that there are plants that are toxic, but actually they have really strong and potent medicine. But we do need to learn how we use them, and the indigenous people where those plants grow, including plants in Europe, that this was knowledge here too, but way back, and it has been oppressed and it has been burned in the witch hunts, for example. People who are closer to the plants and closer to the earth, they will know how to use the plants, if that makes sense.
That's really important, because there's something else that is coming up for me when you do mention that, because then the all the plants have their own medicine, and it's being able to listen to the plant, and to have that veneration and respect for it, that it will reveal its medicine. And then at
Yes.
the same time, depending on the people who use it or who come across it, then they can in a way abuse it, and then bring out its toxicity, and then bring it to people, and then people have like a negative connotation for tobacco,
Yes.
or for
And
other plants.
when you sit with a toxic plant, you will know pretty quickly. That when you consciously sit with it, you will feel pretty quickly. I have different alarm bells that go off in my body. One of them is that I get a big headache. And it's just like, oh, this plant has alkaloids, most probably toxic parts, so I want to be careful. And then it's obviously also really good to just follow folk knowledge or folk herbalism medicine, what was known about these plants from our ancestors or from the indigenous people who are living closer to the earth still. So yeah, to talk about the elements that were calling me in that time, right? And the mountain and the stones. There was a particular, I live at the foot of the Sierra Nevada, so foothills, so to say, of bigger mountains. And there was a particular kind of a small mountain right next to my house that has a pyramid shape. But from my house, it looked really big, obviously. And so, the area was very arid, very rocky, stony, arid. And so I was just meeting lots of rocks and stones in my day-to-day wandering. And it was the time of COVID. So we had a very long period of lockdowns here where we didn't go to school, children didn't go to school. We couldn't work as usual. So it was a time where I was able to connect a lot to the nature around me, and what was there were loads of rocks and stones. So basically I mean, I remember very particular instances, and also with the help of tobacco, because I feel tobacco makes a strong bridge between realms and helped me to listen better and to communicate better with the spirit world and with the natural spirit world. So the rocks and the stones that were present around me, they showed me really about cell memory that I was carrying inside and that we all carry inside. They showed me like my body as well is made up of earth. We're all made out of the same materials. And so the wisdom in these stones and rocks, the historical wisdom is also in my body. And it just brought me back to a very ancient knowing in my own cells. By connecting to all these rocks and stones around me, I somehow got to connect to the wisdom on a cell level of my body through the feeling sense, and the wisdom that is stored within that. And with that came a sense of who I really am, who am I actually really beyond all the things that I was going through at that moment in my life, beyond my childhood hurts and all of those things that were kind of reflecting into the current circumstances. Who am I really? What is that real deep wisdom of me as a soul and of me embodied into the human form? That's what, for me, the stones were communicating, kind of really deep cell memory. And that particular mountain, she was just so beautiful to me, and I would connect to her from the whatever state I was in. And then she would always say like, no, it's not there. I would be up in my mind, in my thoughts, or in my wanting to connect, or wanting some support maybe. And she would always bring all my attention, my mental attention, down into my lower belly, into the womb. And she herself was a pyramid, so it kind of felt like I could become a period, that really stable form. And she would say, no, this is where your seat is, in the womb, lower down, not in your mind, not even in the heart, but lower in the womb. And it would help me to feel really grounded and move through my life from there. This mountain helped me to embody that shape of the mountain and not to be messed around with so much as I was, and to be really stable. And that was the medicine that I was needing at that time.
That's so beautiful. Wow, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
How the elements and the plants spoke to you.
Yes, and this is possible. I want to make really clear for everybody. It's the most natural thing in the world. It's just that we have been cut off from that kind of intuitive relating to the world around us. but it's actually not that difficult once you kind of open your mind to that possibility, because it's just human. We're just part of nature. So relating with nature as being nature is much easier than we might think it is. It's just that our culture and many yeah, generations that we've gone through oppression um, have taught us otherwise. They've taught us that we're somehow a bit above nature or a bit separate from us, and we feel um, outside of nature, which causes a certain loneliness, that we don't know really where our belonging is, or we feel we're not really seen, or we feel we're not really acknowledged. And when you could start to connect to nature in that way, all of those very human emotions that we may carry about loneliness and disconnection and not being seen and so on, they start to heal because you remember your belonging in the wider network of nature. You start to remember who you are.
It also makes me it makes really clear that nature, there is an interdependence that exists between us and with nature. And one thing that I'm just thinking right now, just aside from how you're explaining it, is also how, the oxygen we breathe, we have this basic connection with the plants that they give off the oxygen that we live on. It's something that that allows us to live, and then we give off something that allows them to live. So I think that's already a beautiful give and receive that is already present, but it just doesn't stop there.
Mm.
I mean, that's just like a really like basic vital
Yeah, it's life
living.
giving.
Yes,
Yeah.
but then there's so much more, like in how you're explaining. It's like, the plants are there to help us. They're there with their medicine to guide us and to bring us home to who we are. And oh, even the elements that you said. And all we got to do is listen. And this is it's present right now in the world. But then we forgot the way that it happened is that we were disconnected in one way or another, and it was a grand scheme that this just happened. And so people are looking, and for some reason, when they go out in nature, it feels so like a coming home. There's like, oh, there's something that I can get in nature without really knowing how much more there is. There's just so much more magic that is present. And I believe that you really brought it to surface today in
Mm.
how you shared it. And it's so beautiful. And that's really what attracted me to you too, Anna. I mean, I remember because where I was at, I was looking at the time. And then I remember, I found you, and then you were talking about the plants. And then I remember my old connections. You were talking about cellular memory, and I had this old connection, and that was when I was a teenager, but I really didn't explore it. So having that opportunity to explore it and go really deep and then just connect with the plant, and then, like have that experience, I think is really beautiful. And I know how you mentioned that there's different experiences for different people, because then it depends on where they are at with perception, what their beliefs are and all these things. But interestingly enough, I went to Anna's retreat. She had a immersion in plant communication retreat, and I loved it so much. I asked my son if he wanted to come with me. And so there were several of us that were there, and we connected with Comfrey. And even though we all had different experiences, it had all the same thread. We had similar experiences, but we told it from all our different perceptions in the way that we experienced it. So I think that's the really like the most amazing thing about the plants, is that different plants, they have a different message. They have a different message. Could you tell us a little bit more about how different plants have different message, because I remember that you had like this exercise, and we connected with rose, and then we connected to pine, and they were very different experiences. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's great what you're sharing as well. It's great to work with groups because then you, apart from what you're learning from the plant, you're learning about your own intuition and starting to trust it more. Because you think, well, I felt this, but it's probably just my mind, or well, that was probably nothing, I'll skip that. But then you hear from the others in the group that they're having a similar experience with that plant, like similar themes are coming up. So then you start, apart from what you're learning from the plant, you're learning to trust your own intuition. And that's really where a lot of the work is in terms of relating to the natural world like this. So about different plants having different characters, right? You were asking.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, just as an example, we were connecting to comfrey, and the whole week was very, very kind of deep and serious, I would say, and a lot of very deep subjects were arising, like grief, like fears, deep fears of the dark. And so comfrey has this enormously deep taproot. It really goes very deep into the earth, and then also has like an abundance of green leaves and life force energy, kind of, that once you go through those deep fears or deep pains, that kind of starts to bubble up from deep inside your own life force. And so comfrey, the plant, can heal our body on very deep levels. It goes to the bone. You can actually put preparations on the outside of the skin, and it will penetrate to the bone and can heal a broken bone. So the plant does that physically, and then energetically or spiritually, it goes that deep into our core as well, let's say. And so that is really kind of a comfrey thing to do, like a comfrey characteristic. But then when you go to rose, even just seeing a rose, you get a whole different feeling. It's also very aromatic, so that also kind of enters through your nose and gives you a whole experience of softness, maybe delicacy or love, or really going to the heart. And then it has these thorns. So there's also another part of medicine, like, hey, you cannot just like grab a rose and, run off with it. It really protects its beautiful flower. So there's a lot of medicine and teaching about boundaries and, for example, no. So, but then you look at, I don't know, an oak tree that grows like super, super slow, and the whole energy is very different when you're sitting with an oak tree, and you really calm down and you kind of get into this oak rhythm that's really much very nutritive and very slow. And so I'm just throwing out some examples of how we actually naturally feel different with each plant. And in terms of herbal medicine, each plant has another medicine, is, doing a different thing for our bodies and for the ecosystem around it. And so each has another character. Really, it's great to look at the plants and trees as having a character because it becomes more easy to relate to them. Some are really funny, some are really kind of sunny and joyful, some are really serious, like comfrey, some are really slow and patient, and it shows in the way they grow. Like an oak tree will take many, many years to grow very big. Some herbs are just existing for 1 year, and some have like big, bright yellow flowers. It's a totally different feeling from a red flower. So all of those are ways of them expressing their medicine and character.
That's so beautiful to know that the magic and the medicine of the plant goes beyond the energetics of it, because then they help, with going through emotions and holding us in a way. But then they also have their medicine, like you can drink it and then it can heal, like you mentioned that it can heal, like it can repair a bone, and that's so amazing. And I'm sure that, I mean, like, that's the other truth about the plants, is that they're healers. Literally, they literally heal the body in many different ways, and that's why, we ingest it, or there is something that we can, we can create something to put on the skin, and all these different ways. The plants are so wonderful. I'm so amazed. I am just in so much reverence for the plants. And then, so Anna, could you share with us how we can connect fully with the plants? Do you have a free gift for the listeners today, and a
Yes.
program that you could share with us?
Yes, I have a little free gift, which is a really easy step in to this kind of work. It's a 20-minute meditation that you can just listen on your headphones when you go outside, preferably in a natural area, and you just go for a very slow walk. And at some point, you can sit down and start connecting. It's not connecting to one plant, but it's actually connecting to the place, to the area where you live. So that could be a park or the sea or a valley, like where I live. And just to get you to have like a felt sense for starting to connect to nature in that way. And it's really helpful. It's good for your nervous system to do this type of work. And then I have paid programs. There is an introduction course that is 3 week that you can do online by yourself. That's called Your Plant Ally, and you just get an introduction into plant spirit communication with a plant that you choose or that you feel called by. And there's my 7 week immersion into plant communication, which you did as well online. That's a 7 week online course, which you're most welcome also to do with me. And it happens, well, it is online, but obviously it all happens in your life in nature. You just receive the information and the videos and the teaching online, and you can be in touch with me with one-on-one sessions besides that course.
Beautiful. And so all these will be in the notes. So the meditation, and then also the 3 week course, I mean the 3 week program, and then also the 7 week course, they're all going to be in the notes for you to explore and download and join. And so Anna, I since the beginning, when I heard you say that your first experience was with the when you joined the program, the plant herbalism. Wait, is that what
The Scottish School of Herbal Medicine.
Scottish School of Herbal Medicine? And
Yeah.
then you took the course about the Gidi course.
The Goethean, well, it was a Western herbal medicine study, and they taught us to meet each plant through Goethean Science.
Oh, Grotian.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is basically, meeting the plant as a being.
Meeting the plant as a being. So could you tell us, how were you attracted to take that course in particular, even to enroll in that school? Because there has to be something that drew you to the school, or to make to for
Yeah.
it for you to make a decision that, okay, I want to go to this school, and then you saw all the different courses. Okay, I want to take this course. Unless the course, was it a prerequisite, or was it something that
No, I really chose it for that reason, that they helped us to contact to the plants in that way, and that was what I was looking for. So long story short, I had been traveling and working around the world for 10 years. I had been really connecting to plants on a herbal medicine level, but also seeing how more indigenous people, or people who live closer to the world, to the earth, sorry, work with plants. I had my life saved by plants a few times, and also physical bodily issues and diseases healed by plants. So I was really drawn to the plants and to healing in general. I've always had that. So then after 10 years of roaming around and working and doing all sorts of things, I started to realize I want to settle, I want to study, I want to have some roots. And I was literally just looking online, like, where can I study herbal medicine? And because I'm from Europe, I was very interested in European plants that are growing around me. And then I saw many, many courses, and then I saw this study of 4 years that that introduces you to the plants in that way of relationship. We're not just studying about plants in books, but we're relating to the plant as an equal to us, or even a teacher to us. That's why I went to that course. That's when I went to Scotland for that, basically. Then.
That's so beautiful to know, and I can see that in the plants and how having a relationship with them, it's like the core of like this that wisdom. It's like the core of the sacred knowledge, and because then the world is full of different relationships. I mean, as human beings, we relate to each other, but not only that, there's also a relationship to the plants, and you brought that out so beautifully. This is so beautiful. Thank you, Anna. I'm really excited. I'm really
You're
excited.
welcome. Thank you too.
And so, what is the one quality of the plants that you connect with the most, and why?
Yeah, so as we said, all these plants have all these different qualities. But if I would have to look at, like, is there one specific qualities that they're all bringing? There are a few things actually, the grounding, belonging, which are definitely, really, I connect to that a lot. I need it a lot, and they teach me a lot about that. But then there's also synergy, and I think that's just such a beautiful thing that we can just observe nature and learn from the way the plants and other, beings in nature like live together synergistically, and so they're growing together in synergy, and it means that there's room for all of us. That we've been taught this idea of survival of the fittest, but actually, even when you look at human history, it's always been the survival of the kindest and the survival of the one who can adapt most, which is in working together. It is in mutual support, network, cooperation, community, and really, when you look at a forest, and also, when you look at what happens underneath the ground and all these networks of mycelial network and how plants communicate with each other, they're all forming a part of this big ecosystem that they're living in, and they all have their place. And so if one plant or tree grows and blossoms and gives off medicines and fruit, it doesn't take away from another. Another can also grow and flower and blossom. And I think as human beings, that's so beautiful to learn, because we have been taught, competition, or if I don't have enough, or I need, if I have something, there's not enough for you, or or we compare each other, ourselves to each other. But if I have yellow flowers and you have red ones, I just express my medicine and it's beautiful, and you express your medicine and it's beautiful. And we can't compete because I have yellow flowers and you've got red ones. And, we both have another medicine to give, or maybe similar but different. So synergy, I find it really interesting to observe, because we're all needed in this kind of wide web of the ecosystem. And also as humans, in our human communities, we all have roles to play. And we need to not only grow personally, but grow together in synergy and help each other grow. And if I really express myself in my life, like, expressing my soul gifts, I'm having this whole ripple effect in other people's life. I'm helping people. It doesn't take away from another also doing the same. In fact, I need that other to do the same. Like, I need you to be in your soul talents and gifts, because I can benefit from. So we benefit mutually, and that is what I would call, the part of that synergy that the plants are showing us, and they do not they cooperate. So it's, the more connected we are, the more we can survive and thrive as a species. And where we are in the collective cultural collapse of the moment, that will, that will be going on for a while more, that we really need to learn this, that the change is happening from the roots, and we are doing that synergistically and helping each other bring out our best versions of ourselves and our soul mission and our soul gifts and talents. And that will help us all to thrive. And we can do that in synergy and in community.
That's so beautiful, Anna. And you just explained the whole mission of my podcast.
Yeah.
And so
Great.
it's it goes beyond, like reweaving the thread of, of humanity together. Like the plants also have that, and they are also involved, and they're also helping us in this way too. So then when we connect with them and then connect with each other, then the world becomes an even more beautiful connection and a even more beautiful community that we can create together. This is so beautiful, Anna. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
being
too.
here. And in closing, what message do you have for the listeners of this podcast?
Go outside. And no, yeah, just go, yeah, literally do go outside, but you can even do it from your window looking outside. But go and connect and allow your energy to go from the mind to the heart first of all, and hopefully even lower down in the body, really connecting from the body to the natural world. And if you walk around, let's say a park or a forest, or and you look at the plants or some trees, maybe just ask the question, like, could it be that while I'm looking at this plant, that the plant is also observing me, aware of me? And just allow that question to be there and see what comes back. Don't fill the question in, the answer in with your mind, but just feel it. And that first step into this kind of relating with the natural world is literally to open your mind to the possibility of it.
Thank you, Anna. That was so beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom today. It was such a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, it was great to be here. Thank you so much.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us today in this sacred space. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you resonated with what you heard today, please share this podcast with someone who really needs to hear this truth, and follow me today for more groundbreaking interviews. Together, let's pause and listen to the wisdom present in nature, the plants, and within ourselves. Come home to who we truly are and heal the world.